In any case, hey, welcome in. We're glad to have you. You know, last week, as we moved toward the big, beautiful bill, there was a lot of work that went into it and is still going into it. You had some hearings last week. I think you're on appropriations, and you had. We'll start out with Homeland Security. I got a copy of some video from your staff where you guys were talking about Homeland Security. Pretty interesting with this big, beautiful bill. There's a lot of things that go into it, and there's actually some hard work that goes into it, and that includes hearings where you talk to the actual people who are doing the job and are asking for money. You know, some of the things with border security has to do with being able to put these people in detention and beds, and you know, there's so much that goes into all this. Why don't you just give us a little rundown as to what went on last week and where we are?
Yeah, would be happy to. You're right. I'm trying to make sure that all the committees of jurisdiction can finish their work, and we hope that we'll have that done maybe as soon as this week for the budget reconciliation process. And so last week you had several committees that had markups that brought legislation out: Homeland Security, Armed Services, Natural Resources, Ed and Labor. So about half a dozen committees last week. And then this week, the big three, the committees that really have a bigger role in writing the reconciliation bill, will be marking up this week: Energy and Commerce, Ag, and Ways and Means. And after those three committees finish their work, all the committees' information will then be sent to the Budget Committee. They will then enroll that into one big, beautiful bill, as the president likes to call it. And then we, as members of Congress, will have the opportunity to go to the floor to make amendments, and then ultimately vote on final passage of the bill, sending it to the Senate, where the Senate will then take it up under a rule that only requires 50 votes. And so that's the big advantage to the budget reconciliation process, is it allows you to get around the 60-vote filibuster rule in the Senate. And so we are working diligently. Homeland Security had a role in that. We ended up being budgeted to be able to spend about $90 billion. We actually came in under budget, so we actually spent well less than that. I think the total was $69 billion. So just under $20 billion less than we could have written the bill up for. And a lot of that went for border security. We know that that's something that President Trump has campaigned on. It's something that I'll say that he's done an amazing job. We see border crossings down 95%. He's been able to surge resources. We see probably the most secure border that we've had in the last 25 years under President Trump. But we've got to make sure the border remains secure. And so what we did is we put money in the reconciliation bill for wall construction, for new agents, for technology, for equipment that they need, new vehicles, infrastructure there along the southern border so agents can get quickly from one checkpoint to the other. And so we did that. And as a portion of that, we also conducted hearings on the appropriation side. And so I had the ability last week to question Secretary Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, talking to her about the importance of barriers and walls and those crucial assets that the Democrats repeatedly try to demonize. And then at the end of my couple minutes with the Secretary, I had a chance to ask her about the pending disaster declaration. Now, we know that March 15th, there were a series of storms that came across Mississippi, caused damage to 20 counties, so roughly a quarter of the state, 6 fatalities. The damage is in the tens of millions of dollars. We're still waiting for the approval of that disaster declaration. And so I wanted to make sure that I saved a little of my time to be advocating on a very important issue for our state, which is we want to see that disaster declaration approved by the White House, by the federal authorities, so that those funds can start flowing back to Mississippi. And so it's been a very busy 2 weeks in D.C. We're back 2 more weeks, so I will return back to D.C. tomorrow morning. We'll be up there Tuesday through Friday. I'll come home for the weekend and then be back up the following Monday. So our hope, our goal for the Republican caucus there in the House is to get the big, beautiful bill off the floor and over to the Senate before we take our week recess 2 weeks from now.
Explain to me a couple of things. Number one, just quickly, I wanted to ask you, because this is so important to so many people. This is one of the reasons why Donald Trump was elected president. The wall itself, the border wall, and of course, all of the functions that go with the border wall, which you talked about, the equipment, the manpower, the money available to be able to get the things that they need to be able to monitor that wall. But the wall itself, can you give us an update? Or do you know anything about the wall and the progress and how it's going with that?
You know, since President Trump has returned to office, they began wall construction again. That was stopped under the Biden administration, under Secretary Mayorkas. He issued orders, as were the executive orders issued by the president, to stop wall construction. At that time, we being Congress had approved wall construction. We had actually purchased the materials, and the materials were sitting at the border. But the president refused to put those up, being former President Joe Biden, not our current president. And so very disappointing. We tried to take the president to federal court in order that wall be installed. The president and his administration, being Biden, continued to block that. And so as soon as President Trump was elected, he was able to once again begin wall construction. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that there is money available to make sure. And look, we know that it's going to be impossible to build a wall from sea to shining sea. We're not going to be able to build a wall from the Pacific Ocean all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. But those areas where we're seeing large amounts of trafficking, where walls are effective, and if you go to the border and you talk to the Border Patrol agents, they will tell you that walls are very effective in first stopping and or funneling immigrants to other sectors of the border where law enforcement can be waiting to apprehend them. And so this is a key component. You can't secure the border if you're not building walls and barriers along the border, particularly in those high traffic locations. And so we want to give the Border Patrol what they need so that they can continue to do their mission and they can continue to secure the border. So wall construction has begun. And wall construction will just pick up once we're able to pass the spending bills to purchase the equipment and to pay the contractors to get down there and get to work.
I got you. So basically what you're saying is that the wall is continuing to be built now that President Trump is there. We don't know how much has been built, but I'm assuming that, you know, they'll make some announcements over time about how many miles of wall that they have, been able to build during this first 100 days, I guess you could say. And, it takes a while to get it ramped up, to get things going after you have a period of 4 years where nothing was going on. So I didn't expect it to go up overnight, but it's good to know that it is being constructed and we are providing resources to those folks to be able to get it done.
That's exactly right. And I want to say there's somewhere between 10 and 20 miles that they've begun construction on, Michael. I don't have those exact figures, but I can get that because I do know that those were figures that I saw in preparation for our hearing last week. So wall construction has begun, and again, there's additional funding in the reconciliation bill. But the key component of the reconciliation bill, and something that affects all Mississippians, is the extension of the Trump tax cut. If Congress does not act between now and the end of the year, tax rates for everyone making more than $12,000 immediately go up. You hear the narrative from the Democrats is Republicans want a tax hike for the millionaires and the billionaires. But what they don't tell you is that anyone who makes more than $12,000 a year, their taxes are going to go up. Any American that takes the standard deduction, which 90+% of us take, that standard deduction is going to be cut in half. So not only will our rates go up, but the amount of money that we're able to deduct and exclude from our taxes, that amount will be less. And then anyone who uses the child tax credit, they'll see that cut in half. And so this is truly a tax cut or a tax extension of the current rates that are going to impact virtually every American. And so it is so frustrating when we hear the talking points of the Democrat Party is Republicans only care about the rich. They don't care about the workers. They don't care about the farmers. They don't care about the small businesses. Those are going to be the people that are going to benefit with these low tax rates. And so as we're looking at what we can do with the military and the border, those are really just kind of ancillary issues that affect the reconciliation. The reconciliation is 90% of the extension of the tax cuts, which I think are much needed. And that is why it is so important that Republicans be able to get this legislation across the finish line.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to bring up to you, and I don't know if you know anything about this or not, but for me, I'm a shooting enthusiast, right? I'm a former police firearms instructor. I've been involved in shooting all of my adult life. There's apparently a bill out there, and I don't even know if you know about it. I'm just going to ask you. If you don't know, you can check on it. But there's a bill out there that might come into this budget reconciliation that would totally strip suppressors from the rule where you have to go through all the process to get one. I mean, if you can own a gun, you ought to be able to own a suppressor. That's my opinion. It's something that's a safety item, and I'm just curious if you know anything about that.
You know, I'm aware that there's some conversations going on within leadership as to whether to try to include that. We'll know when Ways and Means does their markup this week. One of the ways that they're looking at including that, if I'm not mistaken, there is a fee associated when you apply for the application.
$250.
If you want to get a suppressor, there's a $250 fee. And so the way that it has been pitched to leadership and the leadership is looking at is, look, you know, this bill being the reconciliation, it involves things that involve taxes or fees. And clearly that is a fee that is assessed to the applicant. And if we remove that section because it has a fee attached, then we can remove it completely. And so I know that those discussions are going on.
Okay.
I am supportive of including that in the legislation. That does not go through any of the committees that either I or Mike Ezell or Trent Kelly sit on. But that will be something that we should know this week, assuming that Ways and Means holds to their markup date, whether we're able to include that or not. But there is a push to include that, and I am very supportive of including that in the legislation.
Well, that's good to know. In less than a minute, for those of us who are not really familiar, what is budget reconciliation versus regular? I mean, can you give us a quick synopsis of that?
Yeah, I mean, the main difference is it allows you to get around the filibuster rule in the Senate. And so normal legislation that does not go through the reconciliation process requires a 60-vote majority in the United States Senate. We have 53 Republicans, so that means we would have to get every Republican vote and 7 Democrat votes. And that is very difficult when you're talking about cutting taxes and spending money on the border and funding the military. So the reconciliation process allows a simple majority in the House, a simple majority in the Senate, and then it has to be signed by the president. And so you only see budget reconciliation used when one party controls the House, the Senate, and the White House, which is what Republicans have right now. It gives us a great opportunity to change the direction of the country, and we intend to take advantage of that opportunity.
All right, Congressman, guess we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for explaining that. That's a little unclear to a lot of folks. You have a great week.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Y'all too. Appreciate you guys.